So, good afternoon friends. So, welcome back to SRIRAM's IAS YouTube channel. So friends, as a part of our UPSC paper discussions, yesterday we had a clear-cut discussion or basic first impression with respect to GS paper 3 and analysis of GS paper 3. So, where we just left over the science and technology section. So, let's try to continue that science and technology paper analysis in this particular session. So first of all, I welcome you all to this session on behalf of SRIRAM's IAS and myself, Dr. Suresh Guramkunda, and I am the Faculty of Science and Technology at SRIRAM's IAS. So friends, if we just look from the perspective of the question paper of UPSC 2026 GS paper 3, so there were, like say, if you look at this sectional analysis of GS paper 3, so there are 5 important or major sections in the GS paper 3. The first section is, we can have it as science and technology. So this year, that is in 2026, we have got 4 questions from science and technology section, and they were of around 15 marks. So 2 10-marker questions and 2 15-marker questions, total of 50 marks. That's one thing. Then if you look from the socio-economic development, that is the economy section, again there we have got around 4 questions which are amounting to around 50 marks. So this is another important information that you can keep in the mind. Then if you look from the agriculture section, again there were 4 questions of 50 marks. So if you see from the internal security section, again there are 4 questions of 50 marks, and the environment and ecology and disaster management. So from this particular section, so we have the another 4 questions, so which is of 50 marks. So like this, 50 into 5, it is 250. So there were systematic, balanced questions from all the sections. So this year the weightage was very clear, and the weightage was properly distributed across all the sections in GS paper 3. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. So then friends, let's try to have a glance and let's try to have the first look at the questions asked in science and technology section. And before do that, what was the nature of the question paper and how the questions were? The nature of the question paper, again GS paper 3, this year's GS paper 3 is a kind of say it's an advantageous paper for those who have given the examination, because every year GS paper 3 used to be non-scoring paper because of its subjectivity, because of its say application oriented thing, and because of its difficulty level. But this year friends, trust me, this would be one of the advantageous paper where the students and aspirants can score better in GS paper 3 compared to previous years. So the questions are of very appropriate, and they were more of expected in nature, and the questions were mild applicative in nature, and they are integrated. So static sections has been systematically and beautifully articulated with the current affairs. So for solving this particular question paper, you need to have basic understanding of the static concepts, and further you also have to have good analysis of the current affairs, and with that you need to have good systematic ability to articulate the static portions with the current affairs portions. That's where this year's paper is beautifully framed, and it's a nice paper, and it's not too difficult and it's not too easy, it's moderate. That's one thing. And the questions, if you look at the questions that have been picked and asked in science and technology, so as we were discussing, 2 10-marker questions were there. So first question, have a look at first question. Explain by giving 2 examples how biotechnology has helped the Indian farmers in processing their perishable crops. So this is a question, and this question has been picked from the biotechnology and genetic engineering section. So particularly it's as it's talking about the applications of biotechnology or applications of genetic engineering in the field of agriculture. So this is something that we should remember. Here you have to keep this thing in also mind that the question has had interlinkage with the agriculture section also, in a way you can take, because although the applications of biotechnology in agriculture is a part of the science and tech, but still we can consider it as a kind of integrated question. So this is something. Now, how you can do, what you can do in this particular question, only thing is that you introduce and say that the biotechnology has had immense applications and the scope of biotechnology extends to all the realm including the agriculture. And there you try to introduce this, that we have one important application of biotechnology, that is gene silencing, RNA antisense technology. Have you heard about this? RNA antisense technology, which is a kind of gene silencing technique. Now use the gene silencing technology or RNA antisense technology, so which has been systematically used to modify some of the perishable crops in India, such as tomatoes, such as mangoes, such as say potatoes. All of those things have been systematically modified with the help of gene silencing technology. So there you can say systematically that the Indian farmers have got benefited by the biotechnology in processing their perishable crops such as tomatoes, potatoes, mangoes and all other crops with the help of this technology. So take the example of how they have modified the tomatoes, how they have modified the mangoes and how they have increased the shelf life period of these perishable crops. What are perishable crops? Perishable crops means those crops whose shelf life period is less, which will get destroyed as in a small number of in a short period of time. So this is where you should keep in mind. So take the examples and you should explain that with the help of those two examples. So in this you can use these things. Mention what is biotechnology and then say that applications extends from very basic to till all the sections, and then bring in the context of RNA antisense technology or gene silencing technology and incorporate this to the two important perishable crops that you can have is tomatoes and potatoes. This is one thing that you can do in this particular question. And the question is also very direct and straightforward, but only thing is you need to have the knowledge of what are perishable crops and examples from that particular thing. So that's one thing, you can have it. Then friends, if you look from the next important question, so it is picked from the nuclear technology and nuclear program point of view. There were some of the recent developments with respect to the nuclear program of India. So question has been picked from this context and the question has been framed. But although it is a 10-marker question, there were multiple parts. They have been incorporated in this particular question. So have a look at the question first. Say, distinguish between a fast breeder reactor, FBR, and the thermal nuclear reactor. So first part of the question. Say in the introduction, you can say that nuclear technology. What is nuclear technology? And you can bring in the context of the three-stage program of the nuclear program. And you can say that there were so many developments in the nuclear program with respect to India. And there you can say that at FBR, at Kalpakam, fast breeder reactor has got systematically we have developed this. So in this context you can introduce it in the you can introduce the question from this context, and then what you can do later on, you can just give the basic differences between the fast breeder reactor as well as thermal nuclear reactor. You can say the differences from the point of this thing. Say, what about the technology? What about the fuel or fission material used? What about the moderator? What about the say coolant? What about the efficiency? What about the advantages of it? So which is more efficient, which is less efficient? So like that you can differentiate. So fast breeder reactor is one of the reactors which has lot of efficiency when compared with the thermal nuclear reactor. So which can systematically convert the non-fissionable uranium-239 into the plutonium-238. So this is where you can just bring in such kind of differences, and you can say that this is one of the important aspect that you should incorporate. After that, friends, then in this context, further what you have to explain the term criticality. So there, another subpart, you have to mention what is criticality. Say criticality means what? Try to understand this concept. Say nuclear reactor works on the basis of nuclear fission reaction. In nuclear fission reaction, the chain reaction is something that is very, very important. But what is very important? This particular nuclear fission chain reaction must be self-sustaining and it has to be stable. So the state at which the nuclear fission reaction attains the stability and which attains the self-sustaining ability, that phase is known as criticality. Try to remember this. Criticality is nothing but that stage of the nuclear fission reaction where the chain reaction attains stability and self-sustaining ability. That's it. So if it is less than that, then the fission reaction dies out. If it is supercritical, then again there will be some issues with respect to this. So that's where introduce what is criticality and explain the conditions for this, and then proceed towards the next important section, that is what are the implications for the clean energy future of our country. So explain the implications such as availability of the plutonium or like uranium, all such kind of things you try to introduce and you try to explain this. So the question has three parts. First part, you have to explain about the distinction between the FBR and the thermal nuclear reactor. The second part is you have to explain what is criticality, and third part, implications of clean energy. So three parts you have to address in a systematic fashion and in a holistic manner. And in conclusion, you can always say that, so India is looking for energy security. In the context of energy security, developing such kind of nuclear technology is a very, very important and the need of the hour. That's what something that you can say. So then friends, if we look at the next question, the next question has been picked from the emerging technologies and their applications section point of view. So in emerging technologies, we have one of the important technology, that is artificial intelligence. So I hope any one of you who is preparing for the Civil Services Examination or UPSC exam from past 1 year must and should know about artificial intelligence, because we are living in this digital world. In this digital world, we are using so many artificial intelligence models, like say AI models, we say. So here the question has been picked from the recent developments in the AI technology. So the question is this: what is agentic artificial intelligence? It's a very simple question and it's a very direct question. And then look at the next part. Explain its working, describe its applications with suitable examples, and discuss the advantages, risks and challenges associated with AI systems, agentic AI systems. The question is direct and question is straightforward, friends. So in first part of the answer, in the introduction, you have to say that what is artificial intelligence, and you can say that there are lot of developments with respect to artificial intelligence, and there you should say what is agentic artificial intelligence. Say artificial intelligence basically refers to simulation of the human thinking or simulation of human intelligence into the machines, so with the help of some technology. So that is nothing but artificial intelligence. Now here systematically, when we use the agents in artificial intelligence, say the assistants, say when you open something, you will get some Google assistant or something of some assistant you will get. So that is a kind of agentic artificial intelligence that we say. Now you have to systematically take two examples and you have to explain. So this paper is expecting you to have some applicative knowledge. You need to have the static knowledge, you need to have the current affairs knowledge, and you need to have the applicative knowledge, and you need to have the precise and concise writing ability also, because the question consists of multiple parts. This is where you must and should address the concept in a holistic manner. So holistic knowledge also should be there. Say if you know agentic intelligence, artificial intelligence, and if you don't know examples, then again you will be losing some part. If you know it but you don't know how it works, then again you will be at loss. If you know these things but you don't know the advantages, risks or challenges, then again you will be at a kind of disadvantageous position. So UPSC is seeking to have holistic knowledge by giving these kind of questions. So develop a kind of holistic perspective, and if you have this thing, question is direct and question is straightforward. There is no much subjectivity in this particular question. I hope you will also agree with this. So this is something that you have to pick and you have to mention. And then say the agentic artificial intelligence advantages and its implications and its challenges you should systematically mention in a beautiful manner. So this is where you can conclude the answer. And if you have gone through the basic developments which were happening in emerging technologies, you can or you might have written this particular answer. So then friends, like the next question is this, that so mention salient features of mission Drishti and discuss the imaging techniques used in the satellite launched on 3rd May 2026. See what the UPSC is expecting. This is a beautiful way of asking questions, that they are checking whether you are aware of the recently launched space endeavors. And there they are indirectly asking the question why it is being considered world's first satellite of its kind. Say on 3rd May 2026 we have launched APTO-SAR satellite, APTO synthetic aperture radar, APTO-SAR. APTO-SAR is a satellite that has been launched very recently on the 3rd May 2026. So this satellite, APTO-SAR satellite, that was intended to bring the private participation into the realm of space technology. So where it has been launched from the Falcon 9 rocket. So this has been done, and the technologies that were being used in this, or techniques that were being used, is that optical sensors as well as synthetic aperture radar. So you have to explain what is synthetic aperture radar, what are optical sensors or optical satellites, and this is how you should systematically mention. And it is considered as world's first satellite of its kind because it has been one of the say privately launched satellite in the realm of the Earth observation satellite. So it's a kind of Earth observation satellite and it has been launched by the private entities. So this is where you should systematically address these aspects. And mission Drishti features. So it will be just a clear-cut thing, that like what is mission Drishti and what was the objective of it, what are those things and what are the features. So you should systematically mention. So it's again a 15-marker question. So like this, friends, there were two 10-marker questions and there were two 15-marker questions, and the questions were not of much applicative oriented and they are not much difficulty. But provided in this question, if you wouldn't have known which satellite has been launched on 3rd May 2026, the entire question would have been gone. So that's where you need to have this knowledge also, that what were the recent space endeavors that we have done. So that is something that you need to have a knowledge. So that's something. And the question paper altogether, if you see from paper 3 point of view, so be it could be economy section, be it could be the environment ecology section, be it could be science and technology, or be it could be all other sections. So questions were doable again, and questions were mild applicative, and questions were integrated with the static with that of the dynamic portions, and with a little application knowledge or ability, you can write this paper also very well. And this paper is also a kind of beautiful advantageous when compared with the paper 2. So paper 1, it was a good paper, and paper 3 again it is a good paper, and paper 2 is slightly, it's kind of thing to say, in a way it is elaborative in nature, but there also questions were expected and questions could be doable, but not the way in paper 1 and paper 3. But in paper 4 again it is more of analytical in nature. So ethics paper was also slightly bit a difficult side this year. So paper 1 and 3 are kind of their scoring, and paper 2 and paper 4 as of now, they are a little bit difficult in this year. So stay tuned with SRIRAM's IAS. We'll be coming up with other papers, and we'll be having a discussion on the first impression and discussion on the optional papers also. So if you happen to written the mains examination, make sure you focus on the coming up optional papers that are scheduled in the next week. And if you happen to be in the preparatory stage, so try to stay updated with the SRIRAM's IAS channel. We'll be coming up with the analysis and other important things also. So that's where, friends, let's try to wind off this session, and we'll meet again with another important section. Thank you all for joining this session.